cave of board games, and it's doing my
I'm terrified because you just said the idea of double stacking. And I
Yeah.
can feel and they'll be looking over there going,
Oh, yeah,
we could.
something else there.
I'm quite lucky because I've got these are old mining houses. We've got extended ceilings, and normally they don't have them. So these have got higher ceilings, which is great. So I've got the height that you don't normally get. So yeah, the idea is to consume space and stack it high. That's as long as I can reach. I'm 6 foot, so I should be able to reach it. I'll be fine.
Yeah, so that's my problem, isn't it? I'm not tall enough for that.
Hello and welcome to Board Game Bonkers. This is Under the Meeple Light Show. And today's guest, we have the box Meeples. So I'll explain them in just a second, hand them over in just a moment. So in case you wonder about the actual mess that's behind me, in the middle of moving a few things around the studio. So it's going to look a bit odd with some of the videos and the timings of videos that come out, because you've been looking at a video in June thinking, hang on a minute, that studio was the same setup as it was in January, and now you changed it in May. Now you're back again with a different studio setup. So please don't get confused. You're not in a time warp at all. It's just timing of these videos. So I'll hand you over to the box Meeples to explain and give a little bit of insight about what they do. So welcome both.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm
Box Meeples. Yeah. I'm Libby. This is Julian, and we do content on our YouTube channel primarily, but sort of some of the other socials as well. Basically, we sort of started out. Julian has had a bit of a love into the board game thing, but I kind of dragged him in completely into the deep end of board games. And during the pandemic, we were watching a lot of Dice Tower and things, and they have that favourite game Friday thing. And we just thought, oh, wouldn't it be fun to put our 2 pennies worth in and join in on favourite game Friday? And then from then, really, everything snowballed. We didn't really intend on having a channel when we started out. We were just gonna, give our opinions on that. But then we started doing reviews and different things. And yeah, we've been doing it for a few years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely recommend people, if you haven't checked your channel out, to go, please check it out. We'll put the link in the description down below so our viewers out there can check it out. And I actually recently seen your kind of top 100 videos that you were putting out there, so that was interesting, so people can check that out. So yeah, definitely I recommend people go and check out your videos there. So I'll just explain what this is all about for viewers out there. Perhaps somebody's new and just clicked on this. Well, what we'll be doing is presenting 10 questions to our guests coming from this bowl, and I promise you I haven't killed the fish. Now, those 10 questions are a little bit different this season. So around our standard questions, we're going to be fitting into 3 different category types. So the first ones they're going to be yes or no questions. They're going to be what's the first phrase that comes to mind when you hear this statement, and there's going to be agree or disagree statements. So it's a little bit different this time, mostly related to the board game. So we'll see how we get on with this. So shall we dive in with our first question or statement?
Right ahead. Yeah.
So in terms of who wants to answer, please answer them together. I think it'll be much more fun. So let's see what our first one is. And I can't remember, because I wrote these questions a long time ago, what they are. So the first one is what phrase comes to mind when you open the box up of a new board game and you realise its heavy iconography makes no sense?
First phrase that comes to mind?
Yes.
I hope Rodney's done a tutorial on this.
Yeah, and then you're kind of thinking, I hope the back of the rule book has all of the icons listed, there's a good player guide.
I think you'd be less daunted.
I'm not so fast. I don't mind.
I would.
You're thinking, let's keep that on the shelf.
I would be.
I'll play that for a while.
I'd be popping that shrink wrap, looking at the punch boards, and going, Libby,
yeah,
there's no words on here.
Yeah, or you're going, oh yeah, so what new game should we play? And then list any other name of game is what you're doing, and I'd be like, so when are we getting that one to the table? Yes, that's for you to learn.
You say that. I think we actually have that situation where we've got very dense games which are exactly that situation. Lots of icons going on, all sorts of rules that we haven't touched, and we have in favour gone for the lighter games.
Yeah,
I can think of one in particular.
Yeah, well, and mainly because I haven't had as much time to get them out and learn them and do all of that stuff. And so, and the time that you've had has maybe been limited, but you kind of then think, right, well, I can definitely get this and this and this done, but that one's a question mark.
Well,
So
yeah,
then
we tend to
shelved a bit.
we tend to teach each other. So if we buy a game, so you buy a game, Liv will tend to learn it and then teach me. If I bought a game, I'll then invest time in learning it and teach it to you.
Yeah.
So it's more than likely you would have had the dense, heavy game than me.
Yeah.
But you're lucky you get to take turns, because I'm the one that has to read all the rule books. So I'm the one that has to learn the game and then I have to teach it to Kim, because there's no way she would touch those rule books, because I want to know every little rule. So what I'll tend to do is read the rule book, analyze it. So I think right now it's in my head, and then I can teach you how it's going to actually work and function. But it's quite interesting because you get some games that are heavy iconography and lots of different symbols, but there's a lot of universal symbols as well. And once you get used to gaming, you get used to the certain symbols, don't you? And what's what and what it means.
Certain publishers, I'm thinking of Stonemar particularly, have a kind of symbol rules that they cover across all their games. So suddenly they're very familiar. And I think certain publishers do tend to follow certain trends and have familiar icons or have similar games as well.
Yeah, well, and sometimes you'll look at a tile, you've never seen that game before, you don't know what you're doing, and it just the way they've done the iconography is kind of so obvious what it means that you don't need to check up on it. It's sometimes just you find these games that it's literally like it's like reading another language.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you get used to it through time, definitely, without question. The more games you play, the easier it definitely becomes. So let's see what our next one brings us, shall we? So let's take it out of the bowl. So, do you know, this bowl is actually used for drinking cocktails, but I'm sure I'll test it out once this is emptied. So, our second one is an agree or disagree question. So, contests offer no community value. So, this is a good one, an interesting one, because a lot of content creators do give away giveaways, etc., do contests. Now, do you agree or disagree that it offers no community value?
Are you asking first? I think I don't know how many people we have done some giveaways, and we do get approached by people to do giveaways, but we normally try to tie it into something we're talking about rather than just saying, watch the end of this video and we'll give away a random thing. So we tend to talk about a specific game and then offer things as well. We're quite lucky because we've fostered quite a loyal audience who tend to always interact. So it's quite a nice way of being able to reward those, you know, the regulars, by knowing they're going to get involved in the competitions. But I do know there's many people out there on all sorts of social media who have built a subscriber account from, you know, having these competitions. You know, if you like, comment, subscribe, you can chance to win this. But then the problem is, are there people subscribe because they want the content or because they want the free stuff?
Yeah.
So in an ideal world, we can do a combination of both. You know, we can give away the stuff to the people we know are engaged by our content anyway. And it's always been very important to us that we haven't just sought out, you know, getting big numbers quickly, that we have been going into, you know, other communities, engaging with them and engaging with the people who watch our stuff, because, you know, if people are taking the time to watch the stuff, comment, they deserve a bit of our time in exchange to build up that community.
Yeah, it is a good point, because there's two ways to look at it. You've got contests, which can be fun, and I know Dice Tower do contests, and it can be engaging and exciting. You've got giveaways, which can work, and you've got made a really good point, because if you're doing it solely to get numbers, well, the only interest is to get the item, not the actual channel's content. So that's a wrong way of doing it. It should be organically grown to build your community. And like you say, it's about rewarding your community that you've already built up organically. They say, well, thank you for being part of this. We want to give you something back in return. So it can work a couple of different ways, can't it, in terms of your viewpoint and how you see that.
People, if it's in terms of us in a contest against one another, that's been asked so many times. But people want to see us compete with each other. But that's something we haven't really explored as much as we could have done. But in terms of giveaways, yeah,
we haven't done a lot, and we specifically held off because we did want to know that we've built a community that are interacting with us and are specifically watching because they want to know about the content that we're talking about, rather than those just in it for winning. And the few things that we have done, we have found that yes, of course, we've had more likes, we've had people sort of engage in that one thing, but they haven't then engaged in the channel in any other way. So it has rung true for us in the few times that we have done that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
And it's good to kind of there is an element of the more you do that, the more you'll be pushed by the algorithm and do other things, and then it does then extend you out to the wider community who do want to engage with you because they're looking for the kind of thing your channel's doing. But it swings and roundabouts for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I have found, though, quite interestingly, and I was discussing this with one of my friends he does solo games, he's got his own channel, and I said that when I do a top 10 or a top 6, that I get a ridiculous amount of views compared to any other video, because people want snap, short little videos to get to the point of what you're trying to get across. And it's quite interesting, and you're right, contest or giveaway videos can obviously bring in a lot as well, a lot of views, but you're right, it does help the channel grow because you get more subscribers. And I've noticed that, you get more subscribers that way with the videos that are most popular, and that's what you tend to want to focus on, because that's going to bring the people and the audience to your channel. And that's what you want ultimately, isn't it? So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what our viewers think as well, and perhaps other content creators that are watching this, whether they do giveaways or contests and what their viewpoints are on it as well, because I'm sure there's many different viewpoints on it. So let's move in to our third one. Okay, let's see what this one brings. So a third one is, we've got a yes or a no question. Okay, so are people who give a board game a rating of 1, and we'll assume it's on Board Game Geek, just because the game hasn't arrived yet, are they idiots? Now, what was your point?
I'm going to dive straight in and say yes.
Yes, they are.
And we once did a sort of small mini series, one each of us, where we went to BGG and we found people that had rated great games, like games that were probably in our top 50, top 100, had rated it 1. And some of the reasons that people give, I find ridiculous. Obviously, everyone's allowed their own taste, and you don't have to like what I like. Julian doesn't have to like what I like. Like, everyone's allowed to have their own taste. But a lot of the time, when they're giving those 1 ratings, it's, as you say, it's because it hasn't fulfilled. Or there were some people that commented that they were giving it a 1 because they felt like too many people were giving it high numbers, so they needed to balance it out. And it's like, well, no, let everyone have their own opinion. You give it a 4 or 5 if you don't think it's great, but let people give it a 9 or 10 if they love it. Like, we don't need to balance out anyone else's opinion. And there were some people that gave, I remember one of them, they gave Wingspan a 1 because birds should be wearing clothes.
Well, I think that was because of,
when you're like, were you drunk when you wrote that?
I think it was in response to it's when Elizabeth Hargrave went hard on one of the Tiny Epic games.
Oh yes,
they're wearing too much of being clothes. And I also find that a ridiculous backlash to, well, I'm going to police this because I don't like what this person's recently said about one thing, so therefore I'm going to go and police all of their games and give them 1 stars and bring the average down because, hurrah, that showed them. It's like, what right have you got to dictate force your opinion on everyone else to the point where you're sculpting their opinions, you're dragging them out? Give your opinion, go right ahead. Give a comment that makes sense, ideally.
Yeah,
I did enjoy someone describing Root, which is my favourite game, as this is just furry Risk. It's like, no, it's not. Have you even played this? But yeah, I give your opinion, that's great, but that doesn't mean you have to then censor everyone and change everyone else's.
Yeah, you don't swing it in order to sort of apparently balance out the crowd because everyone else is wrong. Like, let everyone else have opinion. You have your opinion. That's great.
Yeah, it's childish. It really is. When somebody gives it and tries it at the pram because they're giving it 1 because the game's arrived a year late. Honestly, does it matter? You're still getting the game. I can understand you're not getting the game.
it has no relation to how good the game plays, and that's what that number should be about. Whether the publisher, the distributor had huge problems, like at the moment all the ships are going around Africa, everything's going to be late again, we're going to have this problem all over again. All of our Kickstarters, yeah, they're all going to be delayed probably for at least a year now. But that's not a reflection of the game. That's what's happened in the world, and that's you know, unfortunate financial things that are going to happen to distributors and publishers in the industry. It's unfortunate, but it has no relation to how well that game plays whatsoever.
The silly thing is, if it is delayed by a year, there's a famous quote from Shigeru Miyamoto, the Nintendo designer, where he says, "A rushed game is bad forever, but a delayed game can be a great game." So I'd rather have it delayed and know that I'm getting something that's been properly play tested, because we've all had those Kickstarters arrive, they've not been play tested at all and they don't work. I'd rather have it a year delayed and have a game I can enjoy again and again and again, and actually have good value for money, rather than something that's forced through my door way earlier than it should have been because they, you know, they wanted to meet a deadline.
Yeah. And then you get that hype, and then it's off a cliff, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a good point. Well, on that point, just very quickly, I mean, if you're getting anything Kickstarter, expect delays. It's going to happen. If you're going to in there expecting it's going to arrive exactly on the day they promise, I can tell you now it's not. Never does. They never deliver it on that day. So you've got to expect delays. It's inevitable. It will happen. Yeah, very frustrating ones. I get frustrated seeing them. I think it's just a completely childish, but that's my opinion. But we'll move on from that and let's dig out our fourth one and see what comes out the ball.
I enjoyed the yes/no agreement. It feels like playing a really weird board game version of Mr. and Mrs.
Well, we haven't said that. Deja vu, we've got another yes or a no.
So, there we go.
Yes, we have. So, are metal coins a necessity for a good gaming experience?
What are you going to answer? I'm not scared. I'm going to have a different opinion.
You use that word necessity, which is awkward. But do I want them? Yes. Do I always want them? Yes. On the games that I love, do I need them? Probably not.
Yeah, but this is coming from the person who got the Dwellings of Eldervale version that has the noisy bases, which add absolutely nothing to the game. You don't need those.
But they make it great. They make it great. And that clinky clunky of the coins. I mean,
I want a bit of heft for my coins.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say no with a caveat, because I am all about making my favorite games as luxe as I can make them. But I don't need them for every game, and I'd rather get a game cheaper that I'm trying for the first time, and I don't know it's going to be great, and then maybe upgrade it later.
Yeah.
Then dive all the way in, get the best edition I can get, and go, actually, I don't really like this game.
But what we do keep talking about doing is taking our coins out of the load of games that we've got. So we've definitely got Japanese coins. We've got the coins of Viticulture at the side, loads of different games. They've got different styles to them. So we keep talking about having a coin tray. So then we can pick out the most appropriate ones and then use them with the games that don't necessarily have great coins. We don't need a set of coins for every single game that we have. We just need a little variety so they kind of vaguely feel in theme. We don't even need that, to be honest, but it's nice.
Yeah.
And we've got a few.
I would say not paper money is a necessity. Can't stand paper money. It's like no game should have paper money now. Give me cardboard coins instead of paper money. That's a necessity, but not necessarily.
There was one that came out recently, and I can't think what it was. And no one liked the paper money element, but they were like, but to be honest, because of the type of game and the theme of game, it kind of needs it. But
I hate paper money. Absolutely hate it. But gold coins, I think it's not a necessity, but it feels so good when you got a proper gold coin in your hand. And I think it adds, just gives you a better feel of playing the game. And I think it can grow more in it as well if you've got really good quality components. Now, sure, you don't essentially need it, but I just think it makes a difference. I really do.
I like events, I like feeling something's important. So if you're playing in a big event game, our version of Cyber has got all, It's got all the realistic resources, it's got all the coins, it's got the board extension. They've even got 3D printed factories for it. Like I said, if it's a game we love, we go all in to make that great. But...
yeah, and then it feels epic when you get it to the table, and that, you know, when you play a 7-player of side and there's a big table and everyone's around there and there's all these, you know, they've got great mechs and everything, hasn't it? So if everything else is in line with that and those great resources, then it just makes for a really memorable time at the table.
If you'd said, are realistic compasses essential when you're playing Lost Ruins of Arnak, I would have said, of course, that is a purchase you need to make.
Yeah.
Valid point, valid point. Let's move in to our 5th one and let's see what comes out. So, had a couple of nice ones there. This one's a big one, so it's a big chunky one. So let's see. We have got what phrase comes to mind. Okay, when someone consistently calculates their every decision in a board game.
Okay, so are we talking analysis paralysis for a whole game?
Absolutely.
So they plan everything. We know people like that. I play much more instinctively than you do. Which means I consistently don't win as often as you do, because I tend to take things quicker. I think it irritates me more than you when someone spends ages planning turn after turn after turn after turn what they're going to do. I'm not a big fan of excessive downtime, because especially when we're playing a game where we can't chat in between as well, because it's like I'm just kind of sitting here with my friends, not able to talk while you're planning 5 turns in ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there is that element of, like, if you were saying what phrase, I mean, at the extreme level of this, you are thinking fun sync, aren't you? Because we're in gaming because it's a lot of fun and because you get to interact with people and have a laugh with your friends. And there is a chance that the type of player who is over analyzing all of our moves as well as their own, because you know that's happening, and then they're making assumptions about what I might be doing next, and therefore that then what they're going to potentially do, etc. That doesn't often lead to the sort of fun banter around the table and that kind of I don't know, the joy of gaming sometimes can be drained a little bit from that kind of play. But I do like the challenge of a big Euro and getting that puzzle right. So it's not like, you know, I will consider my options, as you said, and I will, but there's an extreme, there's a line that can cross over that some people do. And some are like natural geniuses, aren't they? And you're just thinking, oh my God, how did you even see that? How have you remembered all of those things that have happened to know that that's not left? And as if someone can essentially sort of card count or something in this big heavy Euro, and just think, wow, yeah, your brains are burning mine out.
I think my saying would be a British exasperated sigh. That's the noise I've made.
It's a slight cheat, really. It's not words, just say.
Do you know what I used to kind of analyze all my moves, so I'm quite good. So, for example, if I was playing chess, I could usually do about 10 to 15 moves in advance. So when I'd be playing a board game, I'd be like, okay, I know I can do that. They're probably going to do that. I can then do that. I can do it quite quickly. But I got to the point where it's becoming more mathematical rather than an enjoyment.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I quickly, thanks to Kim, who she only plays for fun. She's only interested in playing for fun. That is it. Doesn't care if, win or lose. I just want to play for fun. So it's got me away from analysing anything. I just play for fun because she's so quick that I have to kind of play catch up. So the turns are quick. It's a lot more fluid. There's less analysing everything. It's just a fun, enjoyable experience. And because you're right, it takes it away from the fun if you're just analysing absolutely everything. It becomes a chore, not an enjoyable experience.
I think the revelation came when I said, and I think this is true of people who play board games a lot, making modern games, when you realise that I'm enjoying the playing of the game more than the actual winning of it. that moment of, you reveal the scores, and people who haven't played a lot of games, that's all they care about. Have I won? Whereas people who have played a lot of games go, oh, I didn't win, but I had a fantastic 2 hours playing that where we had fun together. It's something that, the children have got used to, and now even they're like, well done you, but how awesome was it when I did that thing earlier? And if you are depriving yourself of that joy by spending too long concentrating on the end game and getting to that point, you're the one who's missing out.
Yeah. It's good. You've got to get that. You've got to get that balance. And, definitely, you've got to get that balance. There's not having one to win. Nothing wrong with that. Of course, you want to win, but you've got to have fun. You've got to enjoy it.
Yes.
Absolutely. So let's see what the number 6 comes out with, shall we? So we've had a couple of nice ones there, and our 6th one, it could be, yeah, it is one of your favourites, a yes or a no question. So, should all board games have a solo variant?
It doesn't work for every board game, I think. I mean, does it?
A few years ago, maybe 18 months ago, I would have said, who cares about solo stuff? But then I've discovered the joys of playing solo games.
Yeah.
So I'm disappointed if a new game comes that hasn't got the ability to play it, but it's not, some solos are just there for having, 1 to 6 players on the board, and you just think this doesn't work as a solo game. Social deduction style games, it's like, well, who's going to play that solo?
Yeah.
But now I've got more involved in solo games. It is an attractive feature on the box more than it ever used to be.
Yeah, and it's a good point, because I think, especially during when COVID came along, it was scrambling for solo games, and that was really important. So they do have a place. Not everyone can get to a gaming group, can they? And people have different lifestyles. People, have got kids, they can't always get the games that they want to play with the kids, and they can't get to the board gaming group. Sometimes they have to. The only way to get in the game to the table is to play it solo. So it is important, but you're right. Not every game is good solo. And I think sometimes publishers put in a solo variant just to try and attract as many people to buy that game as possible. But sometimes the solo experience is so bloody bad, you wonder why they ever even bother putting it in there, because it just doesn't work for some people.
Keeping David Turksey in work. So the solo king. So many of our games are just designed by David Turksey, which I love. But we have a friend who learns games by playing them solo. So he doesn't have the opportunity to play. His wife's not interested. His children have grown up. So he learns the games by playing them solo, because then he's got a groundwork to then build on when he plays them with us at Board Game Group. So it's, I do think there's a benefit to them.
Oh yeah, and it's a key part of the industry at the minute, and there's certainly a huge demand for it, and to have that ability there. But not every board game fits all, does it? And not every board game has to fit every player count. In much like you're not going to have every board game is not going to be a Euro and a dungeon crawler and an area control and this. You can't put everything in every box. So let's just do the ones that work like that well, do them well. And if your game's not really going to work like that, just make it great for who it does work for.
Yeah. Very good point. Yeah, absolutely. Don't try and force it. There's no point. So let's see what our next one comes out with. Okay, so we're on to our number 7, guys. So we're getting there.
7.
Is it going to be like a number 7?
Wow, we will see. I can't even open the thing. This is there we go. Got it open. So what?
6 forward. 3 on 7.
So what phrase comes to mind when you turn up at a convention only to find it got cancelled at the last minute?
Oh, I don't know if that's screenable. No, I think my first thought would be like, right, contingency plan. And you must be thinking, if we've turned up and no one can go in, who else is around? Where's the nearest other hotel that we can sort of bombard a conference room or something? I'm all on a.
You have a backup plan,
backup plan, a contingency plan.
But the thing about conventions is we go there obviously for the games, we're often there for work reasons, but we go there to meet our friends.
Yeah.
So if our friends have also gone there and are disappointed, we've still got each other to see again.
Yeah, that's the great bit. Like, get to communicate.
Someone will always have a game with them.
Yeah.
And we'd be able to, probably go and have a nice meal, have some wine, and go and play a game somewhere. So it wouldn't be the end of the world.
No, we'd be using everyone to bring and buy things, and they'd be realizing they no longer want to get rid of it out of their collection because they had such a great play, right?
I wonder. I'm not actually aware of any conventions, certainly the big ones, cancelling at the last minute. And I think pretty well organised, in fairness, and I can only imagine there'd be outrage if one did get cancelled at the last minute. I can just, can you think about it, if Essen was cancelled at the last minute for any reason? I mean, the chaos that would cause would just be obscene. So I think
we'd have advance warnings. We tend to get the day before for various setup things, so we'd have a bit of a cushion there. But it wouldn't be the end of the world, to be honest.
No, I mean, even aircon last year, it was snowing. We all made it. We had a lovely time.
Yeah, train strikes, it's fine.
If there's a will, there's a way, isn't there?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to see if any of viewers have actually turned up that a convention has been cancelled. It'd be interesting if anyone has.
We've seen the one where there's a power cut, and it was all inside, and they had to reorganise the rooms. But that was just. It worked. It's fine. We coped with it.
Yeah, you had to sort of put your mobile phone torch on as you went into the room with the library games, so that you could sort of try and scour something to play.
You made it up.
We carried on regardless.
That's the time to bring out a horror board game, isn't it? So let's see what our next one is. So we're on to number 8. And this is a small one. I can't even open these. There we go. We've got in. So our number 8 is a yes or no. Simple one. This is online board gaming half the experience.
Yes. I love it. I'm on BGA all the time. We're on the Root app all the time. I enjoy it. It has its place. But is it the same as sitting around at the table with people and playing those games? It isn't. It's not the same experience.
It's part of the reason I enjoy board games now. I used to play a lot of video games, but I spend all day staring at screens. And when I finish that, I don't want to. And unfortunately, that my other half likes playing board games too, so we can play those together, and we haven't got to look at screens. But as Lib said, I do think there is a place for them, and it does allow us to continue playing with people who aren't able to come in the same room, play the same games. They're on the other side of the world, maybe, or they're over in Canada or in America, or and we can still play a game with them.
And it's a great way for us to connect with some of our other content creative friends, which we do. That's the only way we've ever been able to play games with some of our friends over there. So it is fantastic.
But no, it's not the same, and certain games don't work as well online. For example, Root. We often say, well, we won't use the otters because a lot of I don't know how well you know Root, but a lot of the joy of playing the otters is being that Del Boy salesman and trying to convince them to buy your stuff. And you can't do that on the app. It's like, well, no, that's lost.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's useful to exist. But a lot of the reasons we play games is to catch up with friends and to be around sharing some air with people and experiencing that kind of collectively.
Yeah, it's some good points. I remember I used the platform Board Game Arena during COVID, and that was the only time I ever used it. I haven't used it ever since, because the experience certainly is nowhere near to the level of physically having the game out and a group of people around, because you think about it, the majority of our communication is done through body language. So it's very difficult to kind of get that communication going, the banter, the engagement. It just isn't the same level. So it just doesn't work for me, but everyone's different and it brings people together. It connects people.
And it's a great way if it's a game that you've maybe played once or twice, or if you haven't played it and it's not too tricky. It's a great way to learn a game or to keep remembering a game and keep it in your mind of play. So when you bring it back to the table again, you don't feel like, oh my gosh, I've got to trug through this rule book again because I can't remember anything because it's been 9 months since we last tabled it. It's great in terms of, you know, just keeping things ticking along, and keeping familiar with the game.
Yeah, and during lockdown, it was obviously a bit of a different time, but we played the entirety of Star Wars Imperial Assault.
We did.
With our friend who'd set up multiple cameras, and he'd set up all the board every time, and he'd go to the effort of emailing us all our new cards, and we'd print those out and lay out in front of us. And I mean, bless him for doing all that, because that was a big event that happened during lockdown. You know, we would look forward to that, sitting down and playing. But we played that slightly differently in that we had that chat still, because we had the video chats open. But it's such a better experience finally getting together and doing the last chapter of that together, all in the same room. It felt so different. So different.
Yeah.
And
even though we had the banter throughout massively, probably we hyped it up to try to sort of replace what was missing a bit. And then we did have a player who at her first opportunity as a Jedi went straight to the dark side.
Yeah, she did.
So there was a lot of opening to teasing.
Yeah. Any chance to be evil, was there.
But even with all of that over Zoom, still, you know, not just on a thing with a text chat, it still didn't have the same feelings in person on the table.
Yeah. I don't think you can ever replace your in the same room experience. Definitely not. But as it's puppets. So let's see what the next one is. I think we're on number 8 if my calculations are correct. Around my math.
Oh, I don't know. I've just been enjoying myself.
Keep
We're actually on 9, I believe, unless Yes. Oh, yes, we are. Yes, I've done my maths correct. We're actually on number 9. So that's what happens when you have a long day in the office and then you have to do some basic mathematics. So we're definitely
rambling at you for ages.
It feels like 15 questions so far.
So what phrase comes to mind if you were asked to dress up? Now this will be interesting, okay? In a leotard for a convention photo shoot.
You're straight in there.
Yeah.
You're a big tick.
We've got some friends who are chefs who do that and love them for it. We were working at the Cosmos stand last year at the UK Games Expo, and there was a dodo there. I never got a chance to be friends with the dodo.
No. The dodo was our idea. My daytime job is for Cosmos and Devere, and I do tend to come up with some very strange marketing things, which does involve fancy dress.
Yeah.
So the dodo will be making more appearances and was just at Toy Fair recently.
And
so I mean, you can't say no to these things, can you?
In another life, I was friends with various characters at Disney, so I'm not a stranger to embarking on those sort of shenanigans. I'm all for being the figure of fun.
As long as it's a flattering tutu, is all I can say.
You'll never see me in a leotard, I can assure you. It's not going to happen.
I would be in the leotard doing lunges and star jumps if it was required for the game.
Hopefully with my A-level in dance, I'd be slightly more graceful than you, but you'd probably pull it off better.
I'm keen to know what game would require a leotard to be worn. But we might need to invest in this game.
Yeah.
You know,
there's a recallable game that's based on ballet.
There is actually. There's a recent one that's came out in ballets. There's actually, believe it or not, Mayfair actually did a strange game on the Cones of Dunshire. So with the bizarreness of bringing out games for charity, I'm sure they can think of something that involves wearing leotards for charity and involving it. So
you can't say no, can you?
Any excuse.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past them. So let's see what our final question is, or phrase. Let's see what comes out. So our final one is a yes or a no question. So is there too much negativity right now in the board game industry? It's a serious one.
It is a serious one, isn't it?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say the majority of interactions we've had over the years, we've done content, we've very rarely had negative comments. We've had a few questionable ones, but never really had mean comments. And any critical comments have always been said with love. It's always been, I love your stuff. Have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about, getting a new camera? Have you thought about improving your sound? And they've always been trying to help us. In terms of criticism, I think criticism is good for any industry, for anything as a whole, because that means there's work to be done, there's improvements to be made, and that criticism might lead on to something better. I hate pointless criticism, unfounded criticism of just, I'm not going to get this because it's got a funny box. I'm not going to get this because I don't agree with the colour orange not being a fair piece. That's nonsense. But on the whole, that's such a small amount, I think, of all the general love that we've experienced in the community as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. I think as a whole, it's a very positive community. I think we'll stand up for each other. We try our best in terms of trying to improve things like representation and all sorts of things like that. I think a lot of people are on the road to trying to create a friendly and kind environment. It doesn't always achieve that. There are a few that are going to put a spanner in the works here and there. But I think they might be loud voices, but I think they are the voices of the minority.
And they get silenced. I mean, we've all seen various people be quite infamously vocal and critical of stuff. But on the whole, the community rallies to the right cause. And the naysayers get shot down and put in their place and made to look foolish, which is right if they're being, if they're picking on something that's unfounded. Criticism is great, it's important, but aggressive, words are not helpful.
No, it needs to be done in a kind way. You can tell people how things should be improved, but if you do that in a vicious manner, that's not okay. That's not okay at all.
Yeah, it's you're absolutely right. I think the majority of people are welcoming, friendly, positive. You get a few minorities, that's fine. Then you always get that, and I'm sure if there is a thread, up at slating people, then people do kind of jump on and help out and try and put the record straight. I mean, if you look at recently on Board Game Bollocks channel, I think he responded to that Reddit thread and not so fond way of words, but it was straight up about the points on it, and that's fine. Then it's putting the record straight, and it, he makes a point. Well, if you don't like something, then don't watch it or don't participate. It's as simple as that,
Exactly.
But like I said, we've never really experienced anything like that.
No, there's been one or two comments that are a little bit like, oh, a bit harsh, but nothing vicious as yet.
It's so nice to walk around and someone says, I don't mean to interrupt you, I love your videos, thank you for doing those. I mean, obviously we don't get that anywhere other than a board game convention, and we usually happen to wear branded tops, so they do recognize us. But just having that one moment, like one of my favorite examples of this is I was at the Games Expo last year, and this dad came up to me and he had a little boy with him, and his child was similar age to the youngest, and he was kind of hiding behind his dad's legs, and the dad came up to me and said, oh, do you mind just saying hello to my son? He really loved your channel. And I never realized that we had that reach until that point. No. I just thought, well, I'm making this for people our age who are complete losers like us, who haven't been found in the same games. But there's this little boy, and we were like his favorite YouTube channel, and it really choked me up. I came straight to tell you afterwards.
Yeah.
So I'd much rather have that and a slight amount of criticism to have that overall love that I think is reflected in the community as a whole. I think that's the community I experience. And if people do get negativity, I'm sorry for them, but it's just not anything we've really come across.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. I haven't had, apart from a negative review I did, that's only negative feedback I've had, which is understandable. You do a negative review, you're going to get negative feedback. That's inevitable. But no, fantastic community out there. I completely agree. So much kind of love and positivity out there. So hopefully our viewers can share some love as well by hitting that subscribe button, and hopefully, yep, see, I didn't plan that, and hopefully they can pop over and check.
Very smooth.
So thank you so much, guys, for participating. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope our viewers at home have really enjoyed it as well. Super fun. And yes, I hope that people check out your channel as well, because I think it's a good channel and you do a lot of good stuff. And I think it's important as well for our viewers out there to see what else is out there, because there's so much different content. And I've said this before and other videos, that I don't think there's enough in terms of UK representation within the board game industry when it comes to content creators. And I've always encouraged people to check out not just the ones that come from one particular region, but to try and vary it, because you get different styles and you get different viewpoints as well. I think it's important to check that out. So that brings me to the end. So thank you so much for your guests, and thank you viewers for listening. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and leave a comment down below and let us know what your views on today's video. So thank you, and until next time, take care.
Bye.